And empowering those with disabilities to live independently. That's the focus of a master plan which sets out the vision for Singapore as an inclusive society. And for more, Mr. Gan Seow Kee, co-chair of the Enabling Masterplan 2030 Steering Committee and Vice Chairperson of the Singapore Business Federation, joins us to tell us more about that project. Now, Mr. Gan, I just want to zoom in on the manpower aspect. We've set out the broad vision for those with disabilities in our society to live independently. A key part of that would be placing them in jobs, essentially. And we're looking at, having 40% of them of working age, in fact, to be employed in the next 8 years. Give us a sense of the training gaps that you currently foresee and how these gaps can be overcome.
Okay, John, thank you. Thank you for having me on your program. First of all, I want to say that the 40% employment rate by 2030 from a base of about 30% is an aspirational target. We wanted to set a bold and challenging, but we believe achievable target to galvanize us all towards the goal. Aside from training, the Enabling Masterplan 2030 also addresses other measures that will help to boost employment rate in the disability sector. So coming back to training, in terms of training, one feedback we received is that there seems to be a gap between the end of formal schooling years, during which there is quite a lot of support, and the start of employment. So we need to do more in terms of making the support more of a continuum from formal schooling to being ready for employment. And we also recognize that there's a need for continuous learning, lifelong learning for the disabled, just as we need for the rest of our working population. And one specific initiative that will be piloted is the setting up of enabling business hubs. These are going to be one-stop shops where we provide support to the disabled in being ready for employment and also staying in employment. So it will provide training, not in terms of the actual subject matter, which a lot of it have been acquired on the job, and many of the persons with disability comes with those capabilities and skills, but more of life skills in terms of staying, getting employed and staying in employment.
Mr. Gan, what you've just described essentially is getting the worker ready for the workplace. I just want to switch gears a little bit and talk about how the workplace can be ready for the worker in the sense of, redesigning jobs, for example, or redesigning the environment within which the workers would be able to perform those roles. So how can we get the buy-in of employers in this regard?
Yes, I think an important step is fostering better awareness of the support that is available for job redesigning and workplace accommodation in terms of the expertise as well as the financial support from the various government schemes. I want to mention that SG Enable is stepping up their efforts to provide the expertise and to support employers in this area. An example is the work that SG Enable did with Shangri-La Singapore, where they provided expertise in job redesign, as well as job coaches to help the disabled transition into these jobs. So more and more companies have been awarded the Enabling Mark, which is a recognition given to companies with good employment practices for the disabled. And we are looking at various ways to get more to come on board. I think some of the sharing by companies who have been awarded the Enabling Mark would also help. For example, the feedback we have received is that it is not a big budget item, not really onerous to implement once the companies avail themselves of the support that is available.
Right, Mr. Gan, we know that we are currently in a manpower crunch situation, and if you look at those with disabilities, I think there's a recognition that they can help to alleviate that situation somewhat. And I think the work of the committee is, focused on things like micro jobs, for instance. Tell us more about that concept and where they sort of fit in to the overall employment landscape.
Yeah, okay, that's a good question, because this is one of the many new areas where the Enabling Masterplan 2030 is moving into. So the background to this is that some of the persons with disabilities may not be amenable to the traditional 9-to-5 jobs where they have to be at a particular workplace the whole time period. So micro jobs, some enabled by technology, can create bite-sized employment for the disabled. And this will help them overcome their mobility and other constraints while providing service in areas where these persons with disabilities have the skills and good capabilities. And for employers, the persons with disabilities working on micro jobs can be an untapped source of manpower amidst the shortage which you mentioned that we are seeing in Singapore. So for some employers, they just need to get certain work done, and it need not necessarily be in the form of full-time employees working the full day at their workplace. So we believe that these alternative pathways for employment and work, like micro jobs, can be a win-win for both the persons with disabilities and employers. And I want to mention that, to me, employment is not just an economic matter. It can foster a sense of fulfillment, a sense of participating in and contributing to society. And this is also what inclusiveness is all about.
Mr. Gan, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Inclusivity at the heart of this plan. Mr. Gan, thanks very much for speaking to us. We've been speaking there with Mr. Gan Seow Kee. He's the co-chair of the Enabling Masterplan 2030 Steering Committee and vice chairperson of the Singapore Business Federation.